Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to our 1500 subscriber Q&A video today. Originally scheduled for Monday, but life and work, and wanted to get some more questions in, as they're all here on the FLT Discord server. So we moved it to today, and I actually wasn't sure if I was going to be able to squeeze this video in today, but we managed. At least I think so from while I'm recording this. So I'm going to go ahead and hop right in to the questions. And again, I am very appreciative to the community that we are 1,500 subscribers. It's cool to see how the channel continues to grow, and it's fun. This is a really fun creative outlet for me, and I like engaging with you all, hence why we're doing this Q&A today. So I guess I'll probably have some B-roll footage or something playing in the background. So, first question. February ask, what's the worst throw you've seen in an operation on World of Warships? Well, I told him I had a good story for that one. So it is one a battle in which I did not participate in. This was on the World of Warships NA official stream on Twitch. Both of these people, I know one is not, I don't know if she was a community manager or if it was a different position. The other one I also don't know, but his name was Mario Draco. I think he's represents more the South American base on the NA server. And I don't know if he's still a community manager or not, but they kind of, how do I phrase this? You don't see him as much as you used to, since he said something really stupid along the lines of that players were purposely not taking debt flags on their ship to farm debt signals. Or farming debt flags, which, yeah, you can imagine the reaction that it got to on chat on the Twitch stream when he said that, because it was really stupid. But him and the other community manager, I can't remember her name right now. She's not part of Wargaming anymore. They were doing Killer Well. So for those of you who don't know Killer Well, that operation is you all start on the outside, out in the sea, away from a base, and so you have to, as you push in, there's some forts there's 5 forts, 6, 7, I think 7 forts total you have to destroy. You have some 2 channels, main entrances into the harbor. You go in, you have a Gneisenau, and then I think it's a Bayern. And then you have, I believe it's 6 transport ships to destroy them. You have to destroy the onshore installations, to which then you need to either go in one or 2 directions. There is a northern rendezvous point, or there's a southwest rendezvous point on the map. Now, after you've destroyed everything in the base, then you need to head towards these rendezvous points, but you also need to deal with the enemy ships that are now spawning reinforcements out in the sea where you originally spawned. Being a couple of Fuso, some destroyers, you need to prevent them from entering the harbor, and so it's essentially that. And at least half the team has to get one of the secondary achievements. At least half the team needs to be. Oh no, sorry. Let me rephrase that. In order to actually exit to win the game, is that at least half of the team members need to head towards that exit point and enter this rendezvous point circle. Now you get the additional stars depending, I think, how many ships are left, so on and so forth. If you've killed certain ships in the game, you prevent them from entering into the harbor after a certain amount of time elapses. So yeah, so that's essentially how Killer Whale goes. So this was back when they were talking about reintroducing the old ops. Operations wasn't getting a lot of love at this point in time. I think this was a stream from like a year and a half ago, maybe 2. And you could clearly see that neither of these Wargaming representatives, employees, had no clue what they were doing. And basically, they did everything they should not do. It was a colossal failure. they just didn't have any clue how to do the op, and I don't remember if they were doing some divisions with other players, if these players also had never done ops. But you could see in the Twitch chat, those who did play operations and were familiar with Killer Whale, they were like, what are you doing? So they failed that one miserably hard. It's like they weren't even reading the objectives or even saw that there was a rendezvous point on the mini-map. So it was very painful to watch. I actually recorded it. It was that bad. And I considered making how to derp Killer Whale 2.0, because I think I have a YouTube video of how to derp Killer Whale 2.0, but then I thought better of it and probably would draw too much negative attention from Wargaming, and seeming like I was attacking either of these two people, which wasn't the case. It was just, this is not what you do in Killer Whale. So I can't remember all the dumb stuff they did, but it was just the complete opposite of everything they were supposed to do, essentially. Moving on. What do you think was the biggest mistake you made in World of Warships? Oh, the biggest mistake I've made in World of Warships. I feel like that is a very broad question. It's an open-ended question, so this is asked by Forgotten Void, which, speaking of which, he has a YouTube channel on how to do operations, and he does a good job with it, so go check him out. I'll throw, if I remember to, I'll put his channel in the description and the comments below. The biggest mistake I've made in World of Warships. You know, I saw this question in advance, and I had a hard time thinking, coming up with an answer. I am probably what I would say. Maybe there's a few different things. I don't know. Just trying to think of the biggest one. I think one is, maybe I have a couple answers. One is just rushing up to play high tier. So as a new player, I was very determined to get to the higher tiers rather quickly. And I saw how that negatively impacted, it shortened my learning curve. Or no, it lengthened my learning curve in the game. Because particularly as a new player, so when you start off, you know, tiers 3 and 4, maybe even 5, you still got a mix of bots and randoms. 6 and 7's okay, but once you get into tier 8, there's definite a change in how the game, how the battle progresses. You know, dealing with a lot more radar, more gimmicks on ships, and so on and so forth. Much more gimmicks now than when I first started playing back in fall 2019. And it's a really abrupt wall, and in terms of how the game changes. So my first line I grinded up gearing first, then I think I did Montana, then Des Moines. But I don't, I mean, at some point you have to get to the higher tier, right? But I think if I go back again, I would just take more time at the lower and mid tiers just to try to wrap my head around each of the classes. Destroyers, battleships, cruisers. I don't really care to play aircraft carriers. I do from time to time, but I just don't care for it. Because then when you're doing it at the low and the mid tiers, you understand the principles, the fundamental things. So those things don't change when you go to high tier. It's just that you can be much more severely punished if you keep making dumb decisions like your positioning, your lack of map awareness and stuff. So those things take time when you are new to World of Warships. So I think just rushing up. Now, I would say I'm thankful that I didn't just like throw a bunch of money at the game and buying a bunch of like high tier ships or something. The first premium ship I bought with Cole was the Aigla, the tier 6 French destroyer, and then I did buy Massachusetts. So early on, not like immediately when I first started playing the game. So that's why my most battles played in this game is with Massachusetts, because it was printed money for me as a tier 8 premium ship. So I really like the brawling, and you know, of course, brawling kind of changed with the commander rework of 10.0. So yeah, so just trying to climb up the game and get to the high tiers too quickly. That was a big mistake, because it sours your experience in the game, at least in my opinion. Biggest mistake you made in WoWs. I'm trying to think if there's another one. I'll keep it in mind. Maybe I come back to this question if I think of something else. But I mean, the other thing I would say is, you know, in World of Warships as a player, like even though I'm a Unicum player, like I make mistakes regularly in terms of positioning or just second guessing myself. Usually when you second guess yourself, that's when you end up making bad decisions in the game in terms of your gameplay and stuff. But you learn, and I think it's important that it's not so much as practice makes perfect, it's practice with reflection makes perfect when you learn from your mistakes and what you've done in the game. But yeah, probably just grinding up the lines too fast, and I don't really feel like that's a huge mistake. A lot of players do that, but I'll have to think on that. Maybe that's something that I think on in the future. What is your least favorite ship and why? Hardcore Azumo. I hate that ship. I despise that ship. If you're new to the game, it's the Tier 9 Japanese battleship. It's so different when you go from, as you're going up the line, from a Magi. I really like the Magi, the Tier 8 Japanese battleship. Then you hit Azumo. So on a Magi, you have, I think it's 5 turrets. You get 10 guns on the ship. And I think there's two on the front, maybe one somewhere in the mid, 2 in the rear, I think. Then you go to Azumo, and all 3 turrets are on the front. And then your C turret has to do like a 270-degree turn if you shift from port to starboard and aiming. What makes that ship so painfully miserably for me to play is how inconsistent the guns are. It has a very big vertical dispersion. So that's what a lot of players get tripped up on with that ship. So you'll have these nice salvos lined up, broadside target, and your vertical dispersion trolls you, and maybe one of 6 or one of 9 shells lands. So I hated playing that ship and grinding up to the motto. Now they did buff Izumo, I think after I had already begun playing it, or before I started playing it. It had miserable concealment, so they buffed the concealment. But in my opinion, that's not what was wrong with the ship. It was that miserable dispersion. I just can never get the guns to behave. And to me, that makes or breaks a battleship, right? Are the guns, at least, are they okay? Like, decently okay, or are they just miserable? And to me, the guns just always felt miserable. I felt like I had to get within 12 kilometers or less just to make the guns begin to be impactful in the game. And when you're a Zumo, this big Japanese battleship, you're not very maneuverable and stuff. Then it was just a miserable experience. So I was very happy to get to Yamato, which is the crown jewel of the Japanese battleship line. If you could only play one battle type, what would it be? Asked Trapper. For myself, I would probably just say randoms. In real life, I'm also a competitive person. I really like strategy-oriented things, and so I would get too bored in co-op. I have a lot of games in co-op, but most of those is for grinding the dockyard objectives, and you can just grind through a lot of those things much more quickly. Depending on the mission type and request in co-op than you can in randoms, or if you're just trying to knock off snowflakes for the Christmas event or for the anniversary events in World of Warships. But I'd probably say randoms because I do, I have some very memorable battles. Ranked, I've had very memorable battles in 2 as well. But I would say randoms just because I like the PvP interaction in the game. And, when you get to punish players for the mistakes they make in terms of their positioning or showing you broadside when they shouldn't have, and the same can happen to me as well. Just kind of, it's really nice, especially dropping down to the lower tiers. Welcome the new players into the game, right? Or am I right? No, probably a filthy sea clubber. Okay, continuing on. Flippa, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, your Discord name. What's the most disappointing ship you have used? Again, I'm gonna bounce on Izumo. Just such a disappointing ship. It was a very unfavorable ship to play. Now I want to open that up a little bit more, and maybe I include another ship or 2 in that. Disappointing ship played. I'm going through my WoW stats and numbers, just trying to see what ships I have and which ones put a sour taste in my mouth, perhaps, or not. I guess I would say to an extent, Cherbourg. I don't think I'm even pronouncing that ship right. It's the Tier 8 French battle cruiser that you go up, and then I think you get the Brest and then the Marseille? But the Tier 10 is really good, Tier 9 is decent. Cherbourg is rather disappointing to play until you understand its purpose. The purpose of that ship is you will not live to the end of the battle. The purpose of that ship is like a pawn in chess. You sacrifice that ship probably by the time you reach the halfway point in the battle. There's nothing that's more funnier than being in a double division or a triple division of Cherbourgs, just pushing up a flank. Because I think that line, I think you get a 40-second cooldown time on the repair party. And so I was very disappointed in the ship until I realized that its purpose is just to be a pawn and die halfway through the game. Now, other people might disagree with me, but the goal is when you push the flank, as I would in that ship, you at least take one, if not two ships. So maybe it means you focus one ship with your guns, you kill it, and then you ram the second ship. That's how I played Cherbourg, and I had a decent time with it. I want to see if I can find it here. Let's see. Take away this. We want to see Tier 8. Because I don't even know how I landed with that ship in the game. Okay, so they had a different battle type that I did some grinding in the ship. But to show you, I've only played 6 random battles with it, but I have an 83% win rate in the ship. And really good PR and good average damage. And that's how I understood the purpose of that ship. And it feels like it rewards. Then you have to leave the rest to your teammates. At least that's my opinion. So that was a bit of a disappointing ship to play, but I think Azumo will be crown jewel for myself in terms of the most disappointing ship I've ever used and played in the game. Midnight Phoenix asks, this is probably the hardest question I've been asked on a Q&A so far. Related to that, if it hasn't been asked before, what's your diamond in the rough ship? A ship or line that's generally considered weak or poor, but you enjoy playing. Even better if it clicks for you and you do well, but not necessarily as long as you enjoy playing it. Okay, so what's your diamond in the rough ship? Could also do the flip side, strong to overpowered ships that you don't find enjoyable or can't get to work. Okay, so let's start with the weak one, or my diamond in the rough ship. I had to think on that, and I've been thinking on that since you posted that question last night, and because I think I find the question slightly difficult to answer in terms of what does the majority of the player base consider more of a that's generally considered weak or poor, right? Like, am I in touch with the WoW's community on their thoughts on this or not? So what I'm going to say, it's a good tier 5 cruiser, but it's a very rough ship to play. So I feel like this kind of fits well. You guys can let me know your thoughts in the comments below, but I would say it's the Omaha, the tier 5 American light cruiser. Most tier 5, pretty much all tier 5 cruisers in World of Warships are just a big giant floating citadel. Omaha to the extreme. But if you can, it's a very rewarding ship to play. It's kind of like you're running around, sailing the seas, and at any moment, your ship will just spontaneously explode and go off. And how much time do you have left before that occurs? And really, the best way to play Omaha, I need to go back and play it more. I've played it, but I know I could improve my stats on the ship. As you play a lot around, if you have friends with smoke or islands in particular. It's just such I enjoy playing it, but I think majority player base doesn't like playing it so much because it's so easily punishable as a tier 5 cruiser in the game with this giant floating citadel. So I enjoy it. It clicks for me. It works for me. but maybe not so much for the player base as a whole. The flip side, a strong to OP ship that you find enjoyable or can't get to work. I have to think on that one because I have a ship in mind, but I'm not so much sure if it's just I need more time playing it before I can more accurately answer the question. But I'm trying to find it here. And I would say, yeah, St. Vincent. That ship, it's a strong ship, but so far in my playing experience, I'm just not able to get it to work. I will have games where I will do 200,000 damage, loss. 180,000 damage, lost. Kill 3 or 4 ships, loss. So I'm having a difficult time getting that ship to work, and not that I just want to so much easily blame it on those like, oh, teammates. Yeah, that's just too easy to just always blame your team. Now you can get matchmaking being really screwy, but I've played the ship in randoms. I've played it in some other battle types as well. I probably need to play it just even a little bit more to try to figure it out in concealed maneuvers, since you can do tier 10 ships. But yeah, so I have a very bad run rate in the ship so far. I don't have a ton of battles in it, but when you look at my run rate on the ship, I have to tell you, it's 42%. But my PR is, what did they rank that as? It's good. My average damage is great. My average frag's great. Planes destroyed, I think it's also great. It's the light blue on that. So that's just it's a really good ship. All right, I don't know if, I can't remember if you can't play it in clan battles this season. Let me look. Limited number of Corsair, Marceau. One team may not have more than 2 of these ships in total. Yeah, so St. Vincent's not allowed, right? It's a strong ship, really strong ship. I haven't been able to get it to work so far. Any other ships I would think of that are considered really strong that I can't get to work for myself? No, I think I would just say St. Vincent. And I know Flambass, I was watching him, he was trying to improve his stats, and St. Vincent was the same for him. So it's kind of interesting. We both have a similar issue on that so far. Forgotten Void, this is coming to the last 2 questions. What's your favorite collab so far? So my favorite collaboration in World of Warships so far. If I'm being honest, I don't really pay attention too much. I don't get excited about the collaborations that World of Warships does with other entities. So what you have, the Azure Lane, High School Fleet, you had the King Kong, Godzilla. You've had the Transformers. You've had, there's another one, 4K, Warhammer 40K. What else has there been? I feel like they've had some more collaborations. And honestly, I don't really, I'm just like, another collaboration. Cool. There you go, Wargaming. So, yeah. Now, if you were to say the one, this is going to be interesting to answer. If you were to say the one that okay. Now, to be clear, in general, I'm just not that invested into the collaboration events. Like, I have some of the Transformers, Commanders. I don't really use them so much. I think I got Optimus Prime and another one on one of my ships in the game. Now, the answer I'm about to give you is going to be an interesting one, okay? So don't jump off the cliff with this one. My favorite collaboration, and just general purposes, is probably the Azure Lane. Now, don't go running into the comments and saying weeb. I'm not a weeb. And I think that's also difficult because you have to depend on what is the definition of a weeb, right? I feel like that's very open interpretation. So I think some of my communities joked, they tease that I'm a closet weeb. I watch anime and stuff like that, but the reason why Azure Lane is my favorite collaboration in World of Warships. It's purely for the voice lines of the commanders. I find it hysterical, especially with, like, I don't have Yukikaze, but, like, for example, if you're watching other streamers, in particular Flamu, who has Yukikaze commander, I think it's Yukikaze, she just talks nonstop, and it's hysterical. And she has this laugh and stuff like that. So to me, you know, concentrate on this target, requesting support, you know, that kind of gets old after a while. So I like the Azure Lane commanders because it's just this language that I don't understand of these Japanese voice lines, female voice lines, just getting so worked up about what's happening in the game, good or bad. I mean, particularly if things are not going well, you're on fire, a flood, you've taken a massive hit. I have no clue what they're saying, but they just get so worked up. So it just makes me laugh. So I have several. You guys have seen lately that I've been working with Prince Eugen. I have on the German cruiser line. So to me, it's just hysterical. So probably I would have to say Azure Lane for that reason. When will you post sub videos? So I'm assuming you mean submarine videos with your emoji reaction there. I've posted a few, but these are a while back when they first introduced submarines into World of Warships. The most recent one, I think, is I just did an updated upgrading commander build video in general, and looking at subs earlier this year. Because my older one was drawing a lot of views, and that information wasn't so accurate anymore. So then I did another one. I think, but I based it off of tier 6, 7. And I think we hopped around to tier 8 to tier 10 subs. So submarines and World Warships do one thing and one thing alone. Well, maybe you can say two. One is they perform a really strong spotting role, but that becomes really boring if you're just focused on spotting and being a very passive role. But in terms of the play style, is that the only thing that they really exhibit doing best is just surfacing 2 kilometers from a ship, shotgunning them in the face, and then going back under. So it's a very one-dimensional play style for me with submarines. So I find submarines the most boring class to play in World of Warships. And, you know, like I could literally, like, okay, I'm gonna play submarines. I'm gonna be a filthy submarine player for the next week, and I would have video after video of just illustrating that. Now, I played submarines when they first came out and introduced into the game. When we would have the naval battle attempts in your clan, I would have clanmates be like, "Yo, Flimsy, it's ×2 on the American or German sub. You're really good in submarines. Hop in them," right? And I actually would always get typically 2 to 3 kills in the battle. So I have some clanmates who know that I am actually decent in playing submarines, but it's just such a boring playstyle. And to just, you know, I understand the concept of what makes a bad or a really good submarine player, and I'm not going to give the tips of what makes a really good submarine player. Maybe eventually I will, but not in this Q&A video. So I just find them very boring to play. I mean, I think Jingles just finally featured his first submarine video, a div of 2 submarine players. And that submarine player did, overall, he did pretty good. There's 2 or 3 things he messed up on, but overall really good, and you could just kind of see how broken it is, and there's not much you can do against subs, especially for how stupid it is. There's just a lot of things that historically are just inaccurate. With Wargaming's had to buff them and do spread some magic pixie dust on submarines just to make them even playable in the game. Otherwise, no one would be playing them if they kept to historical standards on submarines here in World of Warships. So I think that's going to bring our Q&A to a close. So I hope that the questions, the answers were engaging. We'll do another one before too long. Unfortunately, I think the last time we did a Q&A video was in April. So that's been a while. So if you liked today's video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And this video will not be monetized because it's just a community video. So no ads on this one either. So until next time, take care.